It's not one of us. And we're doing this from here because I want to make sure that those who depend on the microphone can hear it. And so it'll actually be on the website so people can get the news if they want that way. And as we said, we're sending a letter tomorrow morning to the parish by email for those who have email addresses and a letter. But before we announce, I just want to take a moment to let us all collectively pat ourselves on the back, because Ed left us in June of last year, so it's been about 15 months. And I think it has been an amazing thing to see the way this parish has come together and comes in large numbers today because of an announcement maybe, but many, many Sundays, no matter who's preaching, we have huge numbers here. And that's been a very, some might say surprising, but very encouraging thing. So the parish has really continued to thrive during that time, led very ably by our staff, who I'll thank in a moment, but also by each one of us leading in the various roles that we play. And that might be ushering, it might be the altar guild, the flowers, the readers, all the big and little roles, including coming and sitting in the pews to support the parish. And Jim would want me to say, and writing checks also. But week after week, for 15 months, we have gathered together, and not just in twos or threes, and have come together, and I think it shows the special community that this is, and the high regard with which this parish holds each other. And I think that's important for us as we go into the excitement of a new vicar, that we remember and impart that to this new vicar to explain what a special place it is. And I think one thing that really is symbolic of that is that a few weeks ago, and I wasn't here but I heard the story, everybody poured out of the church and went into coffee hour, and lo and behold, there was no coffee and there was nothing. And it would have been due to scheduling confusion, but there was nothing there. And yet, apparently, and maybe this is urban legend, but the coffee hour went on for an hour, and so people finally, sort of wandered away at the end of the coffee hour. And what it struck me that it was a little bit like How the Grinch Stole Christmas. In the bit at the end, when all the Who's down in Whoville come out and they circle around the Christmas tree, the Christmas tree without gifts. And so the Grinch, I just want to quote the Grinch, and he said, or Dr. Seuss, it came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And then after a few more lines it says, maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And that's sort of the spirit of this place. The good news is that the day has finally arrived when the packages and boxes are arriving. And so we're very pleased to say that the 31st Vicar will be joining us. And I want to say it's following months of exhaustive work by the search committee, and Jim will tell us a little bit about that. But the vestry, following all that work, has unanimously voted to call the Reverend Canon Albert Ogle to be our 31st Vicar. And I cannot tell you how enthusiastic the vestry and the search committee are about this choice, and how excited we are, and how excited Albert and his partner, Mile Petrov, are to join us here. Albert joins us from St. Paul's Cathedral in San Diego, where he has served on the cathedral staff for the last 6 years. Now, he's had a very interesting life and ministry, which will tell us about, but he's been serving as president of the St. Paul's Foundation for International Reconciliation, based at the cathedral, and will continue to play a role at that foundation. And the work of that foundation is focused on reconciliation and health projects in the places where there's an intersection between faith and human rights, including the rights of gay persons, including clergy who are being persecuted in places like Africa. That work has taken Albert to places like the United Nations and the World Bank and all over Africa, and that work will continue for him in his other half of his professional life. Will, do you want to tell us a little bit more about Albert?
I've had the privilege over the past year of having a foot in both camps. I've been part of the search committee and part of the vestry through the whole process.
Will, a little louder, please.
A little louder, sorry. I was just saying, I've had a foot in both camps. I've been part of the search committee and also part of the vestry, so I've been a part of the whole process that's taken place. Albert Ogle was born and raised in Belfast, Northern Ireland. He was then educated and trained at Trinity College in Dublin, from where he entered the Church of Ireland as a priest. The Church of Ireland, as many of you I'm sure will know, is an autonomous province of the Anglican Communion. In the early 1980s, he moved to London, subsequently moved to Los Angeles, and became part of the Episcopalian Church in 1982. He's had a varied career, which has included serving as clergy in Dublin, Belfast, Pasadena, Laguna Hills, California, and for a number of years has been a rector at St. George's Church and Academy, and then most recently, as Chris said, at the Cathedral, St. Paul's Cathedral. He has a fascinating life in ministry, and it's been our privilege as part of the search committee and the vestry to learn about that through this process, which has been very detailed. And he's someone who very much looks forward to sharing that with each and every one of you as we all get to know him subsequently. It's been as a result of the self-study that the search committee has done in detail on Albert, conducted on Albert, that both the search committee and the vestry wholeheartedly believe that Albert is someone who has the experience, the ability, and above all, I think, the personality to lead you, us, and this community as our next vicar.
Down to the details in just a second, but as I said, Mile Petrov will join Albert here in Millbrook and in New York. Mile is an engineer with Qualcomm in San Diego, and he is busily looking to get a new job in the New York area. We've all met Mile and everybody. One of the things that we did, the search committee did, of course, reference checks, and then the wardens rechecked those reference checks, asked for more from Albert, and talked to others. And one of the things that emerged from those discussions is that those who knew or had interacted with Mile has said that he is really delightful, and that was our experience here. And more than one person said that they are their favorite house guests. So all of that is a good sign. They expect it's likely that Mile's job will be in New York City, and he won't leave Qualcomm until he has a job here. So that means they'll have an apartment in New York, much as Ed did in his time here. The job remains a part-time job, as it was for Ed. As many of you know, he lived in the city during the week. And our letter of agreement with Albert specifies 25 hours a week for the work here for St. Peter's. And we've signed, consistent with the way this works for vicars, we signed a 2-year commitment with Albert, and the way Ed's contract worked, it rolled over every year. That's the way it will work in Albert's case. Albert will be here. He arrives, I think, by train from New York City. He's going to fly to New York on Saturday, October 11th. He'll arrive by train, and some people from the search committee and the vestry will meet him at the train station in Dover Plains, or maybe Passaic might be better. But in any event, Sunday, October 12th, will be his first Sunday here, but he wants to be in the pews. And as I think about it, he can listen to us right now if he goes on the web later. So he's actually able to see how we conduct services. But he wants to really understand how we do things here. He will actually he will celebrate the Eucharist that morning at the early service, and the vestry and the search committee, or those who are able to get up early enough, will be there to celebrate the Eucharist with him. And then he'll sit in the pews in the late service. He'll continue to sit in the pews until November. Our visiting preacher series will continue, and it's something he wants to continue as we do, because I think it's been very successful. So his first sermon will be Sunday, November 2nd. Before that, Tony Gebauer's memorial service will be Saturday, September 25th. And Ed Johnston is coming up to give the homily. And T. Nolan is going to lead that service. But I've already put Ed and Albert together by phone, and Ed is going to ask Albert to have some role in it, even if it's to just read one of the lessons. Then he will be gone for 10 days in mid-November to complete the move, and Mile will be here hopefully in January. There will be a formal installation service with the bishop. We've got to get on his calendar, and I understand that's so difficult that we may actually need to conduct that on a Saturday. We owe an enormous debt of gratitude to the search committee, who were led by Betsy Sheequin and Woody Cassie, both of whom are traveling today. They will both be here next week, and will make a short announcement and will be available to talk about Albert. And then the others on the committee are Colleen Deely, Jim, of course, Brian Johnston, Bindi Kay, Tori Larson, T. Nolan, Will, David Parshall, Sarah Stack, and Julie Torino. They did an enormous amount of work, and most of the people who came through that door as visiting preachers, they would say either, do you know somebody who might be interested in this job? And it was exhaustive work, and Jim will tell us about it. But what we are thrilled about is that they've been able to find somebody who is so much of the world and very actively involved in something else, and will bring that perspective to us, and is just a very warm and enthusiastic person. And those of us who've met him have really enjoyed getting to know him and Mile. I want to thank the Priest in the Pulpit Committee, Matt Borsch, Sarah Bennison, Andrew Gunlock, and Lillian Corbin for a wonderful series of sermons. Cam, who could not be here today, we will thank her properly in another service. But Cam has been really wonderful as our assistant priest, and really stepping up to play a very important role in giving us continuity and preaching. Ann Gillis, who is our institutional memory and is a parishioner and our parish secretary, has been invaluable. We couldn't have survived without Anne. Nancy Vanderlee, who has continued to deliver us very high quality, really the highest quality music that one could hope for. Ed always said you were the best organist in the Hudson Valley, but that may be an understatement. And the choir is beginning rehearsals today, I think. Is that right? Yes. So there'll be time to celebrate the arrival and Albert and all of the above people with our parish. But I think most important is the fact that this last 15 months have been a confirmation of the strength of this parish, the regard with which each of us hold each other, and the special place that St. Peter's holds in really the broader community. And Albert and Mile are very excited to join that community. I'm told they both play tennis, Mile a bit better than Albert. Actually, just to give you a sense of their ages, Albert is roughly 60, and Mile is younger than he is, probably 45, my guess would be. which might or might not be the reason for the better tennis playing. But, and Albert said Albert plays a little golf and is looking forward to getting out and doing that and getting to know people in the community. His first Sunday is the Duchess Land Conservancy lunch, and he's going to come to that with Betsy Sheeklin, and he'll meet people there. And so I think they're already looking forward to being in the community, and we very much look forward to welcoming them into our midst. Jim.
Thanks, Chris and Will. I think Chris and Will have said pretty much everything there is to say about this, but just a word or two about the search committee process. Betsy and Woody would be here, but Betsy's in Canada, Woody's in Brazil. They'll be here next week, as Chris pointed out. When I signed on to the search committee, I hadn't really appreciated how much work and how much time it would take. Throughout this process, we have pursued many avenues, many leads, many of them brought to us by people in this room right now. We reviewed many resumes and interviewed many candidates, including Albert. And I, through this process, got to know Albert and several other candidates very well, I think, and is enthusiastic about the other, as the other two gentlemen who just spoke. If during this process, and there were times where I became impatient, Betsy and Woody were always there to counsel patience, to have faith in the process, and to know that following it through to its end would bring its own rewards. Now, it's a truism about any open-ended process, I think, that you only know you're done when you feel that you're done. And at some point, I felt we were done. I am confident that we were done. Now, as a member of the committee, I'm very happy with the process we followed and very happy with the result. More importantly, as a member of the vestry, and most importantly, as a member of this parish, I'm very pleased and excited to welcome Reverend Albert Ogle as our new vicar, and enthusiastic to greet him when he comes. Chris.
With that, I think we should just give the search committee and our staff, and I want to thank T. Nolan also, who is not on the staff, and gave yet another wonderful sermon today, and has really held us together in many ways, together with Cam, and it's really as if T has been a leading member of the staff, and he's a volunteer, and our fellow parishioners. So I don't know what we would have done without you, T, so many thanks to T. And I just want us to give all of them and ourselves a round of applause.
Thank you, Chris, Will, and Jim. And Albert Ogle has been a guest in our house, and Lynn cooking this fantastic meal, and we are very enthusiastic about his arrival. And I found him extremely intelligent, exciting, stimulating, and a very open person. So I think he'll be a great addition. And one of the things that he said, Chris confirmed this, is that his mission to St. Peter's is his primary mission. And that's important. That was important in the search committee, important in the questions that we asked him. And that is his primary mission. And I'm looking forward to his arrival very much, as I'm sure we all are. So let us remember those who are less fortunate than ourselves, and give